The saga of being a survivor of complex trauma continues. And I'm scared. I'm terrified. And though I've done this for a year now and I've done a full season, it still feels daunting to get in front of the mic and plug in and sit down in my bedroom and record the thing. I can't believe that the hiatus is over. I can't believe that this is starting again. A part of me feels scared that I won't be able to do it. That's still there. And the other part, I think, even though it's very faint, is excited about starting the podcast again and doing the process, continuing this journey of sharing my life and sharing what I live with as a survivor. So as much as I did try to start again with a bit more of a process and a little bit more planning, it basically is coming down to me sitting down and just pressing record. And today, I kind of want to catch you up on how the hiatus went, what has been going on in my life, and my experience getting back into podcasting. Hi, I am Raysa, a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And you are listening to Hello Trauma Brain, a podcast where I share my experiences living with complex PTSD. My hope is this podcast can help destigmatize mental health and provide support to anyone diagnosed with CPTSD who thinks they might have it or has a loved one with this diagnosis. Quick reminder, I am not a licensed psychologist or mental health care professional, and this podcast is not meant to replace nor substitute the care of psychologists, other mental or medical health care professionals. If you think you might have complex PTSD or PTSD, please reach out to your primary care or mental health care provider. Any individuals or resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsoring Hello Trauma Brain. This episode may reference trauma or abuse, and listener discretion is advised. Remember, you can always pause or skip this episode at any time. And now, let's get back to the episode. Hello, dear survivors, and welcome to Season 2 of Hello Trauma Brain. Thank you so much for joining me today. So let me give you a check-in on how things have gone since I took a hiatus after the end of Season 1. Back at the beginning of the summer, when I recorded the episode, I basically started scheduling different outings to try to get out of my comfort zone. And I made it to a long concert and I was able to see Marc Broussard and I loved it and I had a great time and I was so excited to do similar things for the rest of the summer. And then, life happened and my car started showing some symptoms of age and it started stalling and it was just acting a little odd. And sometimes when I was turning, I could sense something up with the steering of the car. And I decided to basically move up my appointment because the car was set to go into the shop anyway because the maintenance was coming up in probably like a month or so. But I decided to take it in sooner because I wanted to exercise being a responsible car owner. You know, this is my only vehicle, and I thought, let's take the car in. Let's listen to our intuition that something is off. And that's a new practice, right? Like usually in the past, I would have probably gaslit myself and been like, there's no lights going off on the car. The car is probably fine. You're making a big deal. Stop being so hyper vigilant about it. And this time I was like, no, I'm gonna listen to myself. Like something doesn't feel right. I know this car. I took it in. The car went in, and at first they couldn't really find or replicate what I was describing was happening to the car, but they started finding some things in the car. and the repair started, and I kind of thought to myself, this car has been paid off for a few years. I usually don't have to pay for major repairs. This is part of what owning an older car is like. So let's start getting the repairs. I'm sure they'll find what it is. And I was about $1,200 in the hole already when they found what was wrong, which was on top of that. And at this point, I was, the estimate for the car was getting close to $5,000. And with the promise of more repairs being needed when they started doing the major repairs they were supposed to do. And oh my gosh, y'all, it's having CPTSD for stuff like this is just not, it's just not convenient. Like, I feel like this is pretty, like having a major repair on a car is unsettling enough as it is for anyone. But if you have CPTSD like me, it feels like death. It really feels like never ending doom. We're talking, I had panic attacks. I was not in a good place. I was not doing well those first few days, and I didn't know what to do. I was so overwhelmed. I was struggling like hell to ask for help, because that's usually how that stuff goes for me. And I basically, what ended up happening is, I will take this moment to say Blancanieves. That was the name of my car at the time. You probably can tell where this is going, given how I'm describing the situation. Blancanieves is Snow White in Spanish. This was a white Corolla that I had. She served me well. She lasted me for 10 years. She had 122,000 miles on her. I will make an episode on the whole ordeal of what it was like to go through that whole car thing as someone with CPTSD. I will give you a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert is I ended up selling her. Instead of throwing the money back at the car, I decided that probably my best bet was to instead sell her and use the money from selling her and whatever I would have probably put into repairing her into the down payment for a new car. So now I can officially welcome Celeste, who is another Corolla. So this Corolla is, the color is celestite gray, so that's why I call her Celeste. And she's, so far, knock on wood, still getting used to the car. It's a different transmission. It's a different it's just a different car, and I'm very relieved that I now have transportation again. That was a whole thing, and it took a lot of the hiatus time. A lot of the hiatus, a good month and a half, went into this whole thing. And this is, again, it was a bit tragic, the timing, because I really was hoping to get out more in the summer. And, I had just wrapped up the podcast and I had extra time in my hands, and really felt deflating to end up stuck in my place with no car, like only Ubering for the essentials. And it was just, it was really hard. It was really hard. My mental health definitely took a good toll during that time. And at the same time, I can also appreciate that as much as I hated the timing, also, I guess the timing worked out in terms of, had I been doing the podcast while that was happening, I probably would have had to just do an unscheduled hiatus, because it would have been too much for me. And definitely not having the podcast during that time going on help free up some time and mental resources that I was able to invest into taking care of myself and going through the process of selling a car and buying a car. Definitely learned a lot, and I will definitely tell you more about that during season 2. But that was like the big event. That came along with, around the same time, the stove and oven here also was giving me issues, and it ended up being replaced. And I rent, so I didn't have to pay for that. But it was a few weeks of not having a working appliance, which sucked. Like they kept trying different things to see if they could save the appliance, and I just kept trying it and having the same issue. And the issue was that it was basically like making this horrible sound when the burners were when I would turn the stove on, and yeah, that's like a fire hazard. So a lot of Instapot meals, and just literally just keeping things as simple as I could so I could get by. And now, knock on wood, I I know that life will continue to happen to me, but I am hoping that things will stay where they are right now so I can kind of get back to a baseline, especially as I start off the podcast again, which this is surreal. It's interesting to come back into the rhythm of the podcast. But for the most part, I guess that's my big catch up check in on what's been happening in my life. And I will say I am really enjoying the transition into the fall. Like, I do like the fall and the weather, temperature, less insects, like all those things. And yes, I am a pumpkin spice gal. And I already had my first pumpkin spice latte for the season. And I'm all for it. So yeah, about coming back into podcasting, it definitely was a thing. I feel like I had in my mind quite a bit of magical thinking going on in terms of how much I was gonna get done during the hiatus, and I will give myself some compassion because the whole car curveball was definitely a big one and one that took a while to sort out. But I thought I would have the website done by now. I will say I did start working on the website. It's underway. I cannot figure out for the life of me. Like I'm putting things on not linked, thinking that nobody can see it, but somehow people can still find stuff online. So if you've managed to get past the under construction page on the website, it's not finished. At this point, I'm kind of like, whatever. People see the unfinished thing, it's okay. I will finish it, and then I will actually intend for people to find it. So I will be glad people can find it, but yeah, the bandwidth has been on the tinier side, so I've been focusing more efforts into actually working on the pages as opposed to hyper focusing on hiding stuff. I do want to make an episode on that process too, and hopefully I finish the website soon. But it's definitely, I definitely made a good progress on that. I just didn't get to finish it, and the other thing I thought I was going to do was like really revamp how I was going to be doing the podcasting and like re-record a lot of stuff ahead of time. And quite frankly, I'm just kind of literally doing this a week before it's supposed to come out. And that's going to be good enough. It's been a bit of a mix. So in a way, I have felt the pressure to have it be perfect. And this episode definitely feels big again, but not as big, I guess, as the first episode ever. And also, I feel like I've been winging it more this time around, especially with the trailer. Like, no lie, I kind of was winging it with the trailer for season 2. The first trailer, I took some time. Like, I drafted it, I sent it to people, I recorded it, I re-recorded it. I definitely was more hyper focused in making this thing like really professional and perfect. And what happened with season 2's trailer was, I wanted to release it on CPTSD Awareness Day, and then I got down to the wire and kind of was running out of time, and I just drafted it very quickly and recorded it very quickly, and then I sent it to one person, and that person gave me really good feedback, and then I realized that I just didn't allocate time to incorporate the feedback, and I will incorporate the feedback for season 3's trailer, but season 2's trailer just went as it was. And, it was a good exercise for me, I think, to reduce the pressure of it needs to be perfect and to just release it. And it's good enough as it is. And though I can come on here and say, yeah, it is a good exercise, I will still admit that the feelings are still there. The judgment was still there. Like, why did I wait so long? I should have started sooner. This is why I shouldn't leave things to the last minute. And you know the drill. It's just the inner critic was quite active. And now as I sit here, I realize something. I think the reason I sometimes leave, or most of the times leave things till the last minute, is so I don't get stuck in the redoing over and over. It's almost like if I have a deadline, I won't have time to mess around and redo it 50 times. I just have to get it done, and then it's done. And maybe it's some sort of subconscious coping mechanism that I somehow am still using. But yeah, that being said though, not a fan of leaving things till the last minute. It just never feels good. I don't know. I love to hear how it is for any of you. I think for me, like, what I really dislike about leaving it till the very last minute in the way that I do is that it kind of takes the joy out of it. It becomes a stressful thing when it's rushed. And I tend to end up, with the conclusion of I won't do that again. And yet I keep doing it over and over and over. But I did get it done. And though I could have procrastinated recording this even more than I already have, I am recording a week before the episode comes out. I should have enough time to edit this. And I'm just going to hope for the best. And hopefully in a week from today, y'all are listening to something. Whatever comes out of this ditty. Oh, goodness. So having CPTSD is just hard. And I want to focus on that for a moment and kind of go into what is the title of this episode. And spoiler alert, if you were wondering who or what is the thief of joy for Raysa, though there are many thieves of joy out there, I want to say, like, the expression usually goes like comparison is the thief of joy. I'm going to say for me, for the most part, CPTSD is the thief of joy. It definitely is the main thief in my life. It just makes enjoying the moment so difficult. It makes the experience of podcasting more difficult. It makes the experience of living, eating my meal, watching a show, waking up, falling asleep, having a conversation, going on a walk, you name it. CPTSD tends to get in the way of me enjoying it. Like, I can't even feel joy. Like if I feel joy, is so brief. It's so short-lived. And I hate it. I really do. I wish I could feel joy for prolonged periods of time. And granted, I know that part of life is to have difficulties and nobody is 100% joyful all the time. And if we were, then we wouldn't appreciate what joy was. I get all that. That all makes cognitive sense to me. And yet I don't know, I just deep down know that I definitely experience a lot less joy than what I should be, maybe. I can recognize in the moment that I'm not in it. Does that make sense? The way I see it, like CPTSD, the way it impacts my life, it is like it's constantly pulling me away from the present moment. And I feel like joy is being in the present moment. Like, unless you're imagining or remembering something joyful that happened. But even for like if you're looking back, you would have been present during that time for it to be joyous. And then in the future, I guess you can technically imagine what joy could feel like. But if you really want to be in it, you're in it. Like, you would have to experience it in the moment. And for me, I'm just not in the moment. I'm rarely in the moment. If I am in the moment, it's not, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it is to enjoy the feeling of joy for a long time. It is more of like solving an issue or getting through something. And even though I do have my moments where I do experience joy, I just, like, right now, as I stand here, one of the things I would like to see from my healing is to start experiencing those feelings for a little bit longer. Because there is this thing that is always waiting for the shoe to drop. And that is why, for me, like, I know it goes back to my trauma. Like, it's really hard for me to enjoy when something good is happening to me because it terrifies me. Like, I can see where it comes from, and it's kind of sad. It's really tragic. I definitely, as I was kind of trying to think about what to talk about today, I was actually, so my chosen sister, she was featured in season 1, June. And her and I, we did 2 episodes together. It was Healing and Friendships. and I will link those episodes to the show notes. So June and I leave each other a lot of messages, like voice memos on WhatsApp. And, she'll catch me up on her day, and then I'll get to listen to it when I'm able. Then I'll do the same thing. Like, I'll catch her up on my day, and she gets to listen to it when she is able. I was kind of leaving her a message and like wondering, what the hell am I going to talk about for this podcast? I don't know what to talk about. And then it hit me like, oh, the thief of joy. And the way it went, I was like, I paused my message on WhatsApp, and then I made a note on my phone so I wouldn't forget, because that happens. Like, I mean, I try my best to note episode ideas on my phone, but I want to say there's probably episodes that are lost to me either saying it, because I know sometimes I say in the podcast, like, oh yeah, I'll make an episode out of that. And then I'm like, I don't think I ever made an episode about that. But anyway, CPTSD is such a thief. It's the thief of joy. It's so disruptive, and CPTSD is so disruptive. And I think the most annoying part is how pervasive it is. Like, I took a hiatus from the podcast, but I didn't take a hiatus from having complex PTSD. Complex PTSD was with me when the car shit show was going down. It wakes up with me. It goes to bed with me. Sometimes it pops in my nightmares. It's with me all the time. I live with this every single day. And if you have CPTSD, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, kind of wanted to throw those reflections and thoughts here. I guess I want to transition into season 2 and what you can expect. I am going to definitely have more solo episodes. I am also planning on having a few interviews featured during this season, and I have a few guests lined up, and that's exciting and scary at the same time. But I am looking forward to having those conversations. So about the movie / song illustrations, let's talk about that for a moment, because last season I basically was doing them monthly, and this time around I am choosing to do them as I am able. Part of the reason was because as I was trying to figure out what to do with season 2, I considered for a while doing bi-weekly episodes. I was considering doing every 2 weeks. I almost went for that. But around the time when I started working on the trailer, I was really struggling with that. I kept going back and forth between, I don't know if that's too far out in terms of like, I feel like there's so much I want to say. And if I do an interview, then that means that like a whole month is just an interview potentially. And I don't know, something about setting either weekly or bi-weekly was just not feeling right for me. So basically where I landed and what felt right to me was to not really put myself under any constraint. And if you listen to the trailer, you will notice that I say the episodes will come out on Thursdays with breaks as needed. So the reason I did that is because you might have a few weekly episodes and maybe a week or two where you don't get any. And then you get a few more weekly, and maybe I skip another week and get another episode. I was trying to be intentional to allow myself to have space to do this in a way that honors what is happening in my life. And knowing myself, if I say weekly, I am going to try my best to make it weekly. And, it's going to take something big for me not to make it weekly. If I do it bi-weekly and I don't like it, then what? And that's where that came from. And when it came to the Saw movie illustrations, I love those episodes. I love doing them, but they do require a little bit more work. And I kind of landed on not putting myself under this rigid, it has to be every month, because I do remember last season feeling like, oh crap, I almost forgot the movie, now what? And then kind of like rushing it just so it would be monthly. And I was not a big fan of that feeling. I really want to make those intentional episodes where I'm offering you a good illustration, not just something rushed just so I can so I can abide to the monthly, quote unquote, monthly thing. So yeah, those will come as they will. They might be quarterly, depending on what's happening. I might do them a little bit more frequently or not, but you will get them. That's one thing I can promise, but they won't be every month on the dot this season. The other thing that I did work on during the hiatus was a workshop. I've changed quite a bit of the workshop that I had worked on, and I'm still working on it. And I will be announcing here when it is ready and when it will be happening for those of you that are interested in doing a workshop with me. I am very excited for that because the way I'm intending for this to be is a workshop with a live Q&A afterwards. And I am considering having like a recording available, especially because I know some of you are in different countries with different time zones, and doing a workshop that works for everybody is, I mean, that's a little bit too much wishful thinking. And I want to be mindful and accommodate anyone who's not able to make it for the actual time of the workshop to be able to access it if that is something that they're interested in. And I will definitely keep you posted on that. So I did work on the website, I did work on the workshop, and I did rest somewhat. But I just feel like I didn't quite get to, how do I say this? Enjoy the hiatus fully. And yeah, it was just unfortunate. It was really unfortunate timing. But I guess what I can say about what happened is that I did learn a lot from it, and I learned that I can survive that, just like I have survived everything else. I'm a little bit scared to start the season. I'm a little bit nervous about it. So I definitely feel like a part of me has a hesitation with doing well because I'm scared of what could happen if I do. And then there's a part of me that's afraid of failure and nobody will listen and nobody will care. And I know it's not true. I know somebody's listening. But yeah, I'm trying to sit with those feelings. And for a while, I was really stressing about like what to do for this episode because this needs to make sense and all that. And really landing on, I'm just going to hit record and talk about what I'm feeling. Because this podcast was never meant to be this perfect, scripted and structured thing. This podcast was always meant to be me just sharing what living with CPTSD is like. And I guess that includes just talking about what's happening in my life and how I'm feeling. Not gonna lie, it feels weird. I don't know. But I'm scared that I'm gonna hear this back and be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why didn't you script something better than this? Why are you just winging it? Oh God. I would love to see the day where I can do stuff like this and not just, I don't know, not just tear myself into shreds as I am doing it, and before I do it, and after I do it. Honestly, at this point, I'm just hoping that practicing it over and over eventually will change something. So yeah, that's where we are at. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for the support you gave me during season 1. Thank you for your patience during the hiatus. Thank you for sharing the trailer for season 2. Thank you for tuning in. If you are listening thus far, thank you. Thank you so much. I am so excited. Gosh, every time I say that, I want to say that I'm excited, but something is holding me back in saying it. And I think it's because a part of me is afraid. Is really afraid. Just like, oh, or, podcasting is such a vulnerable thing to do. I'm having a moment here as I'm trying to wrap up my thoughts, and I'm struggling a little bit with how to do this. So I guess the way I'll do it is this. I got to hear some of the episodes from last season, not all of them, to kind of get myself back in the mindset. And I've also been listening to other podcasts, and talk about comparison is a thief of joy too. And when I listen to other people's content, I have my moments of, is what I'm doing enough? Is what I'm doing even needed? am I doing a good job? Do I belong here? Type of thing. And then I'll hear my content and I'll have moments where I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that part. I don't know how I feel about what I said there. And then there are moments where I do feel proud. And I can hear the thing and go, gosh, that was actually pretty cool. That's something I would want to listen to. I guess what I'm finding interesting is sitting with all the mixed feelings that I have. And the moments where I doubt what I'm doing and how I'm approaching things, and the moments where I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool then. I don't think anybody else is doing it like this. Like, this is unique. And I can have that moment, that brief moment of joy where I appreciate the uniqueness of my podcast. Even felt weird just saying my podcast. Like, what? Whose podcast? Hello, Trauma Brain. Somebody's podcast. But then, like, I cannot hold on to it for very long. It doesn't last very long. Like, even now, did you just hear it? Like, it happened again. I say my podcast, and I know it is my podcast, and just saying that out loud feels like cringy, very cringy. Still coming to terms with that. This is very surreal for me. And you think that a year later I would be more comfortable with accepting that I'm a podcaster and this is my podcast, and yet, yeah, I'm still getting used to it. But for now, I guess I want to acknowledge you and say thank you again for your presence here. I really hope that you are able to get something out of season 2, that you find it helpful. As always, I welcome your feedback. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear about, any episode ideas that you might have. Feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, we can definitely make this into a collaborative process. Though I am technically speaking to a microphone in my room and none of you are here right now, you will be listening. And that's important to me. And creating something that you find helpful is important to me. So definitely let me know. I'm hoping this season will be chill, will be filled with healing for all of us. And hopefully I can reach more and more of you, because I feel like having CPTSD can be such a lonely experience. And though social media can have a lot of issues and whatnot, and just public content in general, I will say that being able to find that I am not alone and providing for other people to also feel less alone by creating something like this podcast is so meaningful to me. And it really is my little way of kind of paying forward what other people with their content have done for me. Because yeah, before I found all this information, I really thought something was so wrong with me. And I really felt like I was the only person going through it. And it just is wild. It's wild how not alone we are. I know it doesn't feel like it when we're in the middle of an emotional flashback and we're going through it. But truly, I think if we all speak out loud and actually say what's in our heads, I don't think we would ever get to a point where we would not be shocked by how similar it is, how similar our experiences can be. And yeah, that's really the shebang of this thing. And as weird as it feels to say this, it's official. Hello, Trauma Brain is back for season 2. And my hope for this season, for me and for all of us, is to find community, clarity, and a safe space to continue our healing journeys and navigating what it feels like to live with complex PTSD. In this week's healing invitation, I want to offer you a few things to reflect about. When is the last time you experienced joy? Did you feel like you could actually allow yourself to fully enjoy that feeling? If the answer to this last question was not really, I invite you to reflect on any potential reasons you were hesitant to feel joy. Next time you start noticing that feeling of joy, I invite you to notice, where do you feel it in your body? Grounding ourselves can be such a good way to invite our nervous system to start feeling the emotion instead of escaping it. Please let me know how this week's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production is courtesy of yours truly. Also, I want to share a few ways you can help support this podcast. You can subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or the platform you are using to listen. Share this episode with anyone you think can benefit from this content. Follow Hello Trauma Brain on Instagram, subscribe to the Hello Trauma Brain YouTube channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when I post a new episode. And you can make a donation by getting me a coffee. No worries, all links will be provided in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today, and once more, welcome to season 2 of Hello Trauma Brain. I hope you found this episode helpful. I wish you the best as you explore your relationship with joy. It is time for our farewell affirmations. I invite you to repeat after me. I welcome the belief that I am enough. I am lovable. And I deserve to heal. I wish you a gentle week and thank you for your presence.